Welcome to the Dale Lolley Show here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, Dale Lolley, and the Steelers made some more roster moves today. Of course, one, or at least one was expected. Of course, that being DeMonte KZ going on to injured reserve. The Steelers also placed Calvin Austin, the rookie wide receiver, their fourth-round draft pick, on injured reserve as well. That one I kind of thought might happen. Talked to Austin earlier this week, and he seemed pretty optimistic that he was going to be okay. But he missed the entire preseason with that foot injury. The foot injury's nothing major, but the fact that he missed the entire preseason and basically the last month of practices here, the Steelers wanted to be careful with him, and so he wasn't going to help right away. So you put him on IR. You can potentially bring him back if you want. It's kind of a way to hide him, because they have 6 other receivers that they really like, and so not the worst thing to be able to hide Calvin Austin away there. But like DeMonte KZ also going on to injured reserve, that was expected. He's got the fracture on his forearm. He'll be back again at the end of September. They'll bring him back off of injured reserve. With those 2 roster spots, the Steelers re-signed both linebacker Marcus Allen and offensive lineman Trent Scott to their 53-man roster. So now they're back at 9 offensive linemen and 5 inside linebackers, which is kind of more what you thought might happen there. 9 defensive backs and once again then 6 wide receivers. So that's more what you would look at in terms of the roster building part of it. The team also signed, I know everybody's been asking about the practice squad. What's going on with the practice squad? Why aren't they signing guys to the practice squad? Well, they signed 3 more guys to their practice squad today. That being cornerback Mark Gilbert, who was with the team last year, played last season with the Lions. After the Steelers put him on their practice squad, the Lions signed him off the practice squad, and after they released him, I should say. And then he played in some games last year for the Lions. They also signed Justin Rigg, a tight end. He was in camp with the Cincinnati Bengals and was undrafted in a 2022 draft. And then they signed linebacker Chapel Russell. He spent the 2021 season with the Jacksonville Jaguars, played in all 16 games and started one. In 2 seasons in the NFL, he's played in a total of 27 games with 1 start. Originally drafted by Tampa Bay in the 7th round. Guess what pick he was in the 7th round, folks? The 241st pick, which is the same exact pick that Chris Oladokun was. So this is the kind of player that you're getting there with the 241st pick. A guy who is now on his 3rd NFL team in 3 seasons. Now, that doesn't mean Chapel Russell can't play, but come on, that's what you're looking at there in terms of that. In another move, the Steelers claimed another former familiar face off of waivers, signing Jamir Jones off waivers from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Derek Tuszka was released to make room for Jamir Jones. And it's interesting because, Jamir Jones got claimed. The Steelers tried to put him on their practice squad last year, and he got claimed by the Rams, ended up playing for the Rams last year, and he got released at the end of the season by the Rams. The Jaguars claimed him off waivers at the end of the 2021 season and then signed him to an exclusive rights deal. He was originally signed by Houston as an undrafted rookie free agent after the 2020 draft out of Notre Dame. You'll remember him. I wrote some feature stuff about him last year. He made the Steelers 53-man roster last year and then played in 3 regular season games before he was released. They were going to put him on their practice squad, and the Rams scooped him up. So they get him back. That's when they signed Tuszka, as I mentioned. So I would expect you potentially see Derek Tuszka go to their practice squad now. Again, folks, this is why they didn't jump and make all these moves to fill out that entire practice squad. There's still some maneuvering that they wanted to do there. And again, you're building your practice squad so that you can practice. Well, they didn't practice today. They're not practicing tomorrow or Saturday or Sunday. They probably won't return to the practice field until Monday. So they've got a few days here to kind of sift through everything that's happened around the league. Remember, there were over 1,000 players released this week. That's a lot of guys. And so you got to kind of sift through those. And they have a pecking order and they have their board all set, but you don't know exactly who's going to be released. You think you know. And so, you keep an eye on this. You watch and see who's out there, who becomes available, and then you make your moves accordingly. So they signed 8 of their own guys, and now they've added 3 more to that. We'll see if Tuska makes it to the practice squad as well, and they'll go from there. There's no rush to fill your practice squad. Just because they only have 8 now or now 11 doesn't mean they're not going to fill their practice squad. They get 16 spots there. They'll fill them all up. I'm going to take a break. This is the Dale Lolley Show here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'll be back with more right after this. Welcome back to the Dale Lolley Show here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Something is starting to bother me a little bit here. As I listen to a lot of different fantasy football shows. I get Sirius XM in my car, so I listen to the shows a lot on there. And one of the things that keeps standing out to me is I keep hearing analysts on those networks talking about Deontay Johnson or Pat Freiermuth or George Pickens or Chase Claypool. And they'll talk about those players and say, yeah, but those players kind of scare me because, well, the Steelers quarterback situation really scares me. What exactly is it about the Steelers quarterback situation that is scaring people nationally? The Steelers quarterbacks in the preseason completed 72% of their passes for 764 yards, 7 touchdown passes, and no interceptions in the preseason. Now, I get it. It was the preseason. But Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph all looked good in this offense, throwing the football. Throwing the football was not a problem for this team. Moving the football was not a problem for this team in the preseason. They did it pretty consistently. So I'm kind of baffled right now why the Steelers quarterback situation would have people wondering, I'm worried about that. By the same token, I'm looking here at Eric Karabell's quarterback tiers for fantasy football in 2022. And I'm looking here, and he has everything tiered. Tier 4, which is rounds 8 and 9, he has Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Trey Lance, Joe Burrow, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford. Anybody who's a longtime listener to me knows that, hey, I get it. I don't draft quarterbacks early either. Tier 5 in rounds 11 and 12, Derek Carr, Trevor Lawrence, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins. Tier 6, Jameis Winston, Matt Ryan, Zach Wilson, Ryan Tannehill. And then in tier 7, undrafted, Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Davis Mills, Drew Lock, Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder, and then Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, just ahead of Jacoby Brissett and Deshaun Watson. Those aren't in alphabetical order. Why are people looking at this quarterback situation and thinking that the Steelers are going to have, according to this, the 31st best quarterback situation in the NFL? I feel much differently about it than that. I would take Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky, or Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett, however you want to look at it, ahead of Ryan Tannehill, ahead of Zach Wilson. I'd take him ahead of Jameis Winston at this point. They've shown that they can do these things. They've shown that they can play. Tua in Miami is a complete roll of the dice, as is Justin Fields with the Bears. I love Justin Fields in last year's draft. But what do the Bears have around him that makes you think he's going to be a successful quarterback in the NFL this year? And if you like Deontay Johnson, if you like Chase Claypool and Pat Freiermuth, and a lot of people do in fantasy football and in real life, somebody's going to get those guys the football. So I get it if you don't like those two guys for fantasy football because you don't know exactly what's going to happen with the Steelers quarterback situation. You know, is it going to be Mitch Trubisky for the first 8 games and then Kenny Pickett? I don't know. There's potential for that, I guess. But hey, if Mitch Trubisky's playing well, it's going to continue to be Mitch Trubisky. I've said that 1,000 times. But I don't get people's angst about the Steelers quarterback situation. Those guys look good in the preseason. Those guys look good in training camp. I get it if you're looking at what Mac Jones did in the preseason. And you say, or Carson Wentz, all the reports on those guys were negative. But if you're a Steelers fan, you probably saw all 3 preseason games. What did you see from those quarterbacks that tells you that they can't play at a pretty high level this year? I didn't see anything. I think the Steelers quarterback situation, I know this is blasphemy, but right now I feel better about it now than I did Ben Roethlisberger last year. And I thought Ben was okay. And certainly he did some good things, particularly in the fourth quarter of games. But I feel better about this situation than I did that one. They put 16 points or 17 points on the board twice in the preseason in the first half of games. They did that once all of last season in the regular season. Maybe I'm just an optimist, and I am. But I feel pretty good about this quarterback situation. Now, maybe what happens in a regular season will change my mind on that. But there have been other quarterback situations when the Steelers are going into a season that I didn't feel good about. Pre-Ben Roethlisberger. I know that. I don't feel that way about this one. That's going to do it for today's Dale Lolley Show. Of course, you can listen to all of our shows here on the DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Give us a like on there. Mention us. Share it. The shows, we appreciate that as well. You can hear all of our shows. Pitt and Penn State both playing big football games tonight to kick off their seasons. You can hear our podcast for those teams, as well as the Pirates and the Penguins, and plenty of Steelers content as well. I'll be back to talk to you again tomorrow. See you then.